Hello there. So, the Completionist Chronicles. I always want to say the Ritualist Chronicles because it's about the Ritualist. But yeah, the Completionist Chronicles book. I don't know. I've lost count. But it's Tenacity. And I guess I figured out what's bugging me the most about it. It feels more like a graphic novel than it does a book because each character is over the top. They have their roles that they play. It's fun to go through their story, but then you're left with a cliffhanger that you're waiting for the next volume of manga or next, chapter of the comic to come out. And it's just like the only thing here is that there aren't really any bubble dialogue for us to follow along. It's just everything, and I don't mind that. I've read books that way. However, I'm just not used to reading it in a way that it's supposed to be considered novel format. And I'm like, okay, we literally just got past a specific arc, and they're concise, they're quick. There's always something there, and this one was basically about he's no longer being trusted by the dwarves. He gets kicked out, not excommunicated, but they're like they no longer trust him. Turns out, how it resolves is there was a dwarf there that didn't like him, which we were introduced to before, and he was a master of sarcasm, of course. And it just basically seeds you there, letting you know that, okay, so there was an issue, there was a problem, that dwarf was the one causing all the issues. He was the one spreading rumors about him, the lack of trust, making everyone, and the fact that he could use sarcasm. His master skill was in charisma. So, of course, he could see doubt in the other dwarves. And it was like, okay, I'm starting to see why I enjoy reading it, but I also have an issue with it because it's trying to sell itself as a novel when it's more of a graphic novel. It's more of a comic book style, which is fine. It just feels, it's like more like a light novel than it is an actual full-blown novel. I mean, maybe I'm just considering it a novel just because of how I'm going forth thinking about it. But yeah, it's more of a light novel than it is a full thing because they started. This is the one I actually wanted to hear because, like I said, in the last, I got tired of the fact that he's supposed to be creating, he's supposed to be building, and then he's pushed in the corner of everything. Here, he's supposed to be creating, he's supposed to be building. The biggest downside to it is this one is about being a tower defense. This version of the level is a tower defense level. I enjoy playing those types of games, and here, his skill gets to rise. He just gets to build everything he wants to. He has the power to do that all, and it's kind of funny because no matter what, he can build an entire city in a matter of minutes, basically, because he has just that power to. He can literally build and destroy buildings with one spell, even though they try to make you think that the spells are cost intensive, but as soon as he was able to basically deconstruct anything to make what he needs to build, then it was just like, okay, they've really cheapened his class. His class is very cheap to use, even though it requires a lot. But he's gotten to the point and in a location where everything that's killed is of a higher rarity, where he literally gets everything he wants. So it's like I enjoyed going through it. I had fun with it, but him being pushed to the outskirts, no one talking to him. I don't like how, I like the open world concept of lit RPGs where you're basically thrown into a world that has no rules, basically. It's literally a whole other world. Here, it has rules, and it's supposed to be the real world by what's going into it because it's Cal's universe. However, Cal has implemented moderators. Cal has implemented, all this extra stuff, all these extra barriers. And also, one thing that they mentioned with a shattered race, a shattered people, is that there are kids present. That's when the kids are taken out of the safe zones and introduced into society to where they can be slaughtered along with the adults. That's how you shatter a people. They become, and that's the aggravating part. Because it's like, okay, they're a shattered people. When they escaped their homeland, there were no kids present. Now that they're here, there's still no kids present. Of course, they're joking at the fact that kids are being made, but there are no kids present. What happened to the protective barrier? What happened to that being like the pinnacle of it? Because they wouldn't care. Like that's what happened with the Wolfmen. They didn't care if they died because they just respawned over there. It was the kids that they cared most for. It was the kids that mattered. And here it's like there are no little dwarven babies running around. or digging holes or whatever you want to joke about. So it's like one of those things like, okay, you introduced this before and now you've completely gotten rid of it. Because I was thinking there would be a nice scene where Joe could spend some time like with the kids trying to figure, because kids don't have a filter on their mouths. They could literally spew everything that the dwarves are actually hearing about him. He could get rumors from those kids. Or they could have a scene where Jackson is talking with them because he'd relate to them more. I mean, there are a ton of little things they could have done to just make it entertaining and show the innocence of it. Right now, all you're seeing is the adults. There are no kids present. There are no children present. There's no threat there. It's just, so that's like the one thing I was like, okay, this is, it kept going through my head. It was like, where are the kids? Where are the dwarven kids? Where are they? There's none present. There's none anywhere. Well, what happened here? That's supposed to be a huge part of being a shattered race. Your kids are no longer protected. And here it's just like, nope, that's not the case. Yeah, but that's just another thing that I kept thinking about the entire time. I was just like, you could have just had one little scene, or he sees one running around, and it like as he sees the death and destruction, he could have seen a kid basically sobbing because his parents. It could have been more impactful for him than when he went to the Council of Elders, he could have apologized, and because it would have shown more. Instead, it's just like, oh, well, everything fell apart. People fell and revived as elves. There's no real stakes, because that's why the Master of Sarcasm doesn't care, because as soon as he dies, he'll have more since he sold out the information of the dwarves, he'll have so much in his other life as an elf. Yeah. But it's like I still enjoy it, but now it's like, okay, it's a comic book. I have to think of it in the minds that it's just a graphic novel. It's not a full novel. If I get through the, like, after you finish an entire arc in a comic book series or a manga series, you feel like the entire story has been done. You feel like, okay, now we can move on to the next part. That's what this is. It's just like it's missing the entirety of it. We need to finish the entire arc, the main arc, which is all of whatever the planet's called. I forgot. The planet of the frost giants. Whatever that is. Yeah, but I still am enjoying it. Now that I've figured out in my mind, like, okay, that's what I'm going to consider it as. It's actually far more enjoyable to watch. To read. Even though I still have issues with, like, the kids. What happened to them? No big deal. There were supposed to be like 100,000 escaped dwarves, which honestly I didn't think was the right number, but they wanted, or 100,000 escaped people. But whatever works, what works. Thank you all for watching. Oh, and one thing happened is, what happened to A10? Did he switch sides? What happened to his guild? It's like his guild was just finally reintroduced the last book of the last... Yeah. And then all of a sudden, he's no longer a part of it. And then he goes to the next place. He's building a guild. And again, he's the only person in the guild, really. He has no clue what's going on anywhere else. I have a feeling like finally when he returns back to Midgard, the first area, he's going to be at war with the guild because all that stuff is his. Yeah, but that's just my thoughts. Thank you all for watching. Talk to you next time. Toodles.